Hello, welcome to another episode of From Prison to the Streets. I'm Eric. Today we are talking about how I got a doctorate while I was in prison. I went to college while I was in prison. Be sure to like and subscribe. Let's get straight into this. So when I was arrested, I was 17 years old. I was a junior in high school, and as such, I had not graduated. However, when I was going through RDU, which is a diagnostic unit, when you go to prison, you first go to a diagnostic unit and they figure out what programs you need to take while you're in prison in order to give you the best chances of rehabilitation and reintegration into society. Well, when I went through RDU, they decided that I needed to get a GED or a high school diploma. And they actually did away with the GED program and made it a high school diploma program because they felt that employers would look more favorably upon a high school diploma than they would a GED. And when I first went to prison, I had over 10 years left on my sentence. I was sentenced to 13 years. I served 11, but I was sentenced to 13 years. And they had this rule where you couldn't get into the program to get your high school diploma unless you had less than 10 years, preferably less than 5 years. So they didn't want to let me into the program. I tried to get in. I felt like I was in high school less than a year ago, so all this stuff is fresh in my mind, so why not? Why not try to get in there, right? I had to go down to the officer's desk when day room was open and get a pass to the education department. So I went down there and I talked to the lady that ran that program. Her name was Laura Boyer, and she was an awesome lady. Love her, wish I could run into her today. She's a sweet lady, helped me out a ton. She told me, you have more than 10 years left. We can't let you in the program. And I said, look, I was just in high school, not a year ago. Let me at least try. Let me take a practice test. If I do good on the practice test, let me in the program. If not, let somebody else who is more worthy of that spot in the program, because they had a limited number of openings in that program. She let me take the test, take the practice test, and I got perfect scores. She had me take it again. I got perfect scores again. She let me into the program. Most people in that program stay in there for a year or two. I was in the program for 2 weeks, and then I tested out. I don't remember how I got in to do my exam that fast. I don't remember if Miss Boyer was really impressed with what I was doing or what, if I talked my way into it. I don't know. I don't remember. But I got in to take my exam. I had a perfect score on 3 out of 5 subjects on that exam, and the other 2 subjects I missed 2 in math, and I got 1 wrong in English writing, language arts writing, whatever. To this day, I say that I got that 1 in English wrong because I knew more about English than the guy giving the exam did, or grading the exam did. And that's not because I'm not trying to blow myself up here or sound arrogant. It's just I feel very confident in my abilities when it comes to certain things, and writing is one of those things. Grammar, writing, that's kind of my thing. I didn't know how I did on the test, and they called me into the office of the education department. I thought that I was in trouble. You had the guy from the examiner's office there. You had the head of the program there, and they did chew me out pretty bad, but it wasn't because I did bad on the test. It was because I did so good. They said, "Why are you here? You have the highest scores in the history of this facility and in the history of this program. Why are you here? You should be off in college somewhere studying physics or chemistry or biology or anything. You should not be here." And I didn't have a good answer for him. But what that meeting did for me is it created a thirst for knowledge and a confidence that wasn't there before. When I was growing up, no one really made me feel like I was capable or that I was smart or that I could achieve anything worthwhile in my life. That just wasn't a feeling that I had. But when I took that test and I saw that I could do great things, it made me feel really good about myself, and I wanted to test myself. And I picked up a book called the Evelyn Wood 7-Day Speed Reading and Learning Program. It is a program that teaches you how to speed read, but not like a lot of programs. You know, a lot of programs teach you how to skim through stuff, and they call that speed reading. This is not that. This was legitimately increasing your reading speed and increasing your retention and allowing you to absorb information at a much higher rate of speed. And after reading this book and practicing what it taught, I went from 300 words per minute is what I was reading on my first day, to after I finished the book and put the principles and techniques into action, I was reading at 2,900 words per minute. So a huge increase. What I did from there is I read entire sections of the library. I could read, a 300 or 400 page book in a couple of hours tops, depending on how I was feeling. Sometimes I could finish a big book in an hour without problems. And I read mostly nonfiction. I would go through the religious section of the library, read all of it. Go through the psychology and self-help section of the library, read all of it. Same with the music, history, whatever. I would read entire sections of the library. It weirded some people out, creeped people out. They thought that I was strange, and, they would see me studying and bringing books by, and I would overhear people in the library say, "Oh, is this a good book?" And I would immediately answer, even though I wasn't a part of that conversation. Or I would see people standing over in a section of the library looking through stuff, and they'd pick out a book and get ready to take it. And I'm like, if you're interested in that, that's not the book that you want. You want to check out this one over here. They thought that I worked in the library. I did not work in the library. I just read, most of the books in it. But yeah, so I did that. But it wasn't enough. I felt like I could still do more, so I started looking for a college. And I settled on a religious college. And the reason why I did that, a religious school was cheaper. And as far as exams go, with a secular college, you need to have someone come in and administer your exam and stuff like that. And I was able to find a religious school that would allow me to write papers instead of taking exams for most of my work. There were still a few exams that I had to do, but we found a way to do it by mail. It was all done by correspondence. So that was really cool. I would get my textbook, I would read it, and I would write papers on what I was reading and get my grades back. It worked out great. And the school that I found would defer the cost of tuition until I was released. The only thing that I had to pay was my entrance fee, my application fee, and I'd have to pay for my textbooks. And that was still difficult because I made $29.40 a month in prison. Aside from my hustles, I made jewelry and stuff like that. Maybe I'll talk about that in another episode. Let me know if you're interested in that. But I would sell jewelry. I made money doing that, and I had a few other hustles going on. I did calligraphy for people and made greeting cards, whatever I had to do. But I made money. And my Aunt Linda helped me out a lot. So I could pay for my books, and I could go through college. And that's what I did. And in El Dorado, they had a pilot program where they actually had computers in the library that inmates could go and use and type stuff up and print it off. As far as I know, it still is the only prison in the state of Kansas where you can go and type stuff up on the computer and print it off. I could be wrong, but I think that's the case. At the time, they were the only, they was the only prison in Kansas that had that, I think. But that's what I would do. I'd go to the library. First I would make my rough drafts in my cell, and then at yard time, instead of going and lifting weights, I would go and type up paperwork in the library. Most people thought that I was trying to get out of prison, but I was just trying to get a college education. And I did end up getting I got my first degree. I got a associate's degree in theological studies, which was huge for me. No one in my family had been to college. I was the first person in my family to get a college education, and I did so from prison. So that was huge for me. It meant so much. And my father had passed away when I had done this, and I really wanted him to be there to see it because I thought that he would have been really proud of me. But he wasn't. And there wasn't anything I could do about that, but it is what it is. Now, what I studied theology. Theology appealed to me because theology allows you to learn about more than one worldview. In Christianity, you have theology, you have apologetics, stuff like that, where you can actually study worldviews outside of Christianity because it contrasts Christianity with everything else. Christianity versus Buddhism, Islam, Hinduism, Jainism, Taoism, Judaism, whatever. Okay? You get to learn about all of it. And I really enjoyed that. And that is what I studied. And the school that I went with, they were really cool. They had a really good curriculum. It was comparable to a lot of the big Bible schools in the United States, like the Moody Bible Institute, stuff like that. But really good curriculum, really good people. And the funny thing is, I'm not a Christian, but I like learning about religious worldviews. I feel like it teaches you something about a person's identity. Spirituality is very close to people's heart. Even people who don't think of themselves as spiritual, they often have deep philosophical views. And if you learn about a person's spirituality, you can learn about their culture, their background, their values. You learn about that person, and it can build a connection. And that connection has always been really important to me. I like people a lot. So that's why I studied that. That's kind of what did it for me. And the other thing I studied after doing theology for a while, I started studying religious education. And, I was in a nonprofit organization called the XLJCs. It was an organization that was operated by inmates within the facility. We taught self-help classes and all sorts of stuff. And religious education teaches you a lot about the educational process. And for me, at first I just thought, hey, maybe this would make me a better teacher. So I started taking some of the courses for religious education, and I realized that I loved it because I was learning about developmental theory. I was learning about, Piaget and Erik Erikson and all these other people. And it was so cool to learn about developmental theory and how the brain works and the educational process and stuff like that. And it just, I don't know, it really resonated with me. And I kept pursuing that, and I kept pursuing theology, and I ended up getting several degrees, undergraduate and graduate degrees. I have a master's degree in theology and a doctorate in religious education. And that took me a long time. I actually finished my doctorate in religious education the same year I was released in 2018. So it was a long process, but I did it. At one point, I didn't have access to a computer, so I had to buy a typewriter. They do sell typewriters in prison. I would clack away on my typewriter in my cell and annoy my neighbors and everybody else around me, but I got it done. So, yeah, that was a lot of really fast talking, but I feel like there was a lot involved in my educational journey. What I think you should take away from this is if you apply yourself, you can do anything. If you apply yourself, if you put the time and effort into it, I don't care what circumstances you find yourself in, what challenges you face, you can do it. You can find a way to do it. It might be tough, but trust me, there are very few people who go to college in prison. There are very few people who leave prison with a college degree, much less multiple college degrees. It's possible, and I did it. So if I can do that, if I can be the first person to graduate from college in my family and do so from within a prison, anybody can do it. You are capable of anything if you put your mind to it. Thank you guys for watching. I'm Eric. This has been another episode of From Prison to the Streets. Thank you for watching. I'll see y'all later.